Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 8915 Southwest Hamlet Street here in Tigard. We're located to the right of the front door. There's your front door over there. This cleanout sits right in front. There's just one vent, well, on this frontmost part of the house here. Cleanout sits right in front of it if you ever lose track of it. Big 4-inch ABS cleanout. We're going to check the overall condition, serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running. Just zeroed out and off we go here. Yeah, a little bit of standing water right before the transition joint. Swapping over to cast iron there. And a pretty minor amount of settling that took place. And we'll get a better view of that spot on the way out when the line's drained. But keep in mind, I've got a bathtub running right now, which is putting a pretty high volume amount of water down the line. That much water can exaggerate a 1/4 inch of standing water into what looks like an inch. So we'll see how that looks once it's drained. And this is one of those unique parts of town where you often get homes that have cast iron that goes all the way to the street edge, if not all the way to the main, which is a relatively uncommon thing for older homes. And that's just generally speaking a good thing. Cast iron holds up. I mean, if you're gonna have old pipe materials, cast iron is generally the stuff you wanna have. All right, now we're hitting the concrete pipe, 6-inch concrete. There's a fun little creepy crawly there we just zipped past. All right, and there's the main there at 65 feet. I apologize, my camera right now is upside down. My auto leveling cameras are in the shop right now, and this fancy new wireless system I've got, it does not let you manually flip the image over. So it doesn't bug my eyes at all. I've been doing this 13 years. That's normal to me, but sorry, that's probably kind of awkward to look at. We're going to go locate really quick here while the pipe drains off. Then we'll get a better look over as we come back. All right, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Southwest Hamlet Street. So as you face the house from the road, the line makes its way out to the street through the front yard. It doesn't go into the driveway, which is great. It starts to veer toward the driveway, but it turns and shoots out of the road a good 10 to 15 feet to the right of the driveway. In fact, by the time you hit the main, you're actually lined up pretty nicely with the front door. That gives you a reference. Concrete pipe has remained very clean. Has good flow through it. All right, concrete pipe's draining out very nicely. So based on the footage out there, it looks like your cast iron pipe is running about to either the right of way, possibly the street curb, but in that ballpark. Now, in these old lines like this, it behooves you to keep an eye on them. I mean, obviously, it's an older line. It's showing some of its age at this point, but it's clean. You're starting to get a little bit of wear and tear in the flow line, the cast iron. There's just the very beginning of a groove forming. It's a process called channeling, troughing. There's a few different words for it. And so there's a little bit of a groove there. It's not a terribly advanced case of it, and there's no buildup in the line. What I will tell you, though, is that this is a line that's going to be worth keeping an eye on. This is not a line that I've been doing this 13 years. If I haven't mentioned this already, sorry if I'm repeating myself. I've cambered about 25,000 sewer lines at this point. You know, this is not a line that I'm going to tell you is going to be going 20 years from now. I don't think that's going to be the case. You've got some pipe joints in the concrete. If you go back out, look at that section of the line. That are, it looks like they're just starting to allow moisture to weep. There is zero gradation loss out there. You know, there was a point in time where I used to hammer down on those a little bit more. What we found over the years, though, after we've been really watching these things and going back to houses, you know, 3, 4, 5 years later after they sell again, what you notice is that not every single line out there, when they start to allow a little bit of moisture to seep through, keep in mind, concrete is a porous material. As is the grout. Moisture is not just blasting through those pipe joints, it's seeping. It's very slow but sure seepage, and it's porous concrete anyway. Anyhow, what the major things I'm looking for when you get that are any of the joints gaping wide open. No, none of those joints were hardly gapped at all, if any gapping was even present. The other thing that I'm watching for is gradation loss. If I start to see signs of hydro erosion, where the line starts to settle, that's a point where I get a little bit more concerned about that circumstance. And then the cast iron, you've got some channeling that's forming here. So it's a line that, to take advantage of where I'm getting at with this, is trenchless epoxy lining. And you can update a sewer line however you want to. You can dig it up, bore it, burst it. There's a lot of options these days. That liner option, I'm a huge fan of them. They save gargantuan sums of money when you're not having to tear a road apart. So it behooves you to keep an eye on these sewer lines over time and monitor them. You know, as it sits right now, there is zero buildup to speak of in the line. There's a little bit of channeling, but it's not advanced, it's not deep. There's no debris hanging up in it. And the concrete pipe is flowing off very nicely. So both of them are showing some age factors here. But based on the cleanliness of the line, there is no evidence whatsoever that any of that's even affecting functionality. And I wouldn't expect to see it where this line is right now. This line's actually held up quite nicely, considering its age here. And then a teeny little bit of standing water right here. I mean, this stuff is, you know, this is a belly and an offset that's hardly even worth calling either of those things. All notated on the report that from the clean out to 2 feet, you've got about a 1/4 inch of standing water. And about a 1/4 inch offset joint, neither of which is significant in any way at all as it relates to those issues. You know, but what I would tell you is that you're probably looking at, what I would recommend doing is be planning to update this thing by the time you're probably about 5-7 years down the road from now. But you do want to rescope periodically to keep an eye on things. Predicting when a line will completely wear out is impossible. And for instance, you take two exactly the same sewer lines, identical lines, just like this one, for instance, and one of them is bedded in native soil, basically compacted dirt, and the other one is bedded in a whole bunch of gravel. The line that's bedded in gravel, the line can wear out significantly more. The joints can be wide open to the ground. In a lot of cases, the line will not shift, settle, or do anything other than just sit there and wear and wear and wear. Whereas a line that's bedded in dirt, when those joints start to open up, you often start getting hydro erosion that takes place, where the joints will allow dirt to flow through them and cause slow but sure settling, because it'll erode the support out from underneath the pipe. So there's a lot of factors that play into how a line wears out and how long it takes to wear out. So we might see this thing go even longer than that. And you also have the factor of usage, what's going down the line and how frequently. Just like your driveway and a lot of other things, water, you know, flowing through the line is a wear and tear item. It's one of the things that puts wear and tear on the line itself. If you have a house that's got a whole bunch of girls with long hair, men with long hair for that matter, clogging the sink up, and you're putting Drano down the pipe all the time, that acid will eat at the cast iron and prematurely wear it out. So what I'm getting at is I can't predict for you exactly when this line will wear out. As we sit here today, we have good flow all the way to the main lateral, a superbly clean sewer line. There's like one scrap of toilet paper at the very end of the sewer line. Beyond that, absolutely nothing else. So I would rescope this thing about every 2 years to keep an eye on it. That way, if we start seeing any signs of some of these things coming home to roost, if you start seeing subtle standing water in the concrete pipe, stuff like that, it's at that point you want to look into the prospect of doing a liner. You just don't want to let these lines get to the point where they're fully worn out and they start settling like crazy, because then what you're going to end up doing is digging the sewer line up and spending about 4 times more money updating it, because you're going to have to start cutting into the street. So anyway, I don't want you freaking out that your line's going to start falling apart tomorrow. You want to keep an eye on these things. With the advent of trenchless repair systems, you can really save yourself a lot of money if you just keep up with them, take a look at them here and there. You know, that does a great deal. Anyway, as it sits here today, none of these issues are significant enough to need repairs, in my opinion. Functionality is not being affected in any way, and it's made evident by the fact the line is just spotless clean. So, and if you are newer to an old home like this, older materials, cast iron and concrete both are not the smoothest pipe product in the world. you want to not be putting things like wipes, flushable wipes, things like that down the line. They tend to snag up in this stuff a lot easier than your modern plastic sewer lines. It's a good, you just want to keep it to folded toilet paper, ideally. Anyhow, sewer line has good flow all the way out, and the line is functioning properly at this time. Just rescope every 2 years to keep an eye on it. And I would be planning to probably do an update on this. I'd be budgeting for it probably within the next 5 to 7 years, approximately. But, you know, like I said, it could go longer. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But as this thing sits here today, like the joints I was just talking about where they're weeping moisture, that did not just start happening yesterday. Those joints have probably been that way for a decade, if not longer. So the fact that there's zero shifting that's taking place there in the concrete tells me that line should not be spectacularly wearing out all of a sudden. It's going to take a while for that to occur.